Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, Senate Bill 756 would expand casino gaming to Fairfax County in Northern Virginia. The way the bill originally was introduced, it limited it to a certain area of Fairfax County near a couple of malls and some metro stations. The bill as it came out of Senate Finance got amended to broaden it up to the entire county. And yesterday we made an amendment to clarify the intent of the Senate Finance Committee, which was to also require any project constructed to be at least 1.5 million square feet. Just so you have an idea what that would mean, that could include a concert venue, a conference center, a hotel, entertainment district, IMAX center for sporting events, things like that, which is typically how projects of that size are designed and constructed. I just want to say, first of all, about this, this issue first got my attention back in 2015-16 when MGM announced they were opening a casino gaming complex right across the Potomac River from where I live. A lot of times I would go out walk my dog at night and go down to the GW Parkway, and right across the river you could see it. It's pretty bright. And I read at the time they opened it that they planned for a huge amount of their business to come out of Virginia. And that really made me upset, made me so angry, in fact, that I called up Senate Finance Chairman Senator Lucas, who I knew had been advocating for casino gaming in the state for a long time. And she and I wrote an op-ed in the Richmond Times-Dispatch back in 2016 saying that we needed to do this in Virginia so that Maryland, North Carolina, West Virginia did not continue to pick our pockets. There's also a facility over in West Virginia in Charlestown. We're seeing these things all over the place now. And since then, at the time, by the way, MGM anticipated $350 million a year of their revenue coming out of Virginia, which that's 10 years ago now. So now we've probably seen over $4 billion of our money fly over the bridge into Maryland to pay for their schools. And now, National Harbor, by the way, that project is now the crown jewel of the Maryland gaming system. MGM, I think, generated something like $850 million in casino revenue for them last year. The MGM Casino in Maryland is the number one best performing asset the MGM has outside of Las Vegas. And I want you to think for a second about that. And when we did this study for JLARC found that a project in Northern Virginia would generate more revenue than all the other casinos we've authorized in Virginia combined. And that's just not revenue for Northern Virginia, it's revenue for the entire state. And this has been studied, it was looked at, it was validated by JLARC. Now, did they come out with specific numbers? No, but they said it will generate more than all the other five combined. So, Madam Chair, I went and did a little spreadsheet. And if you assume that a casino in Fairfax would generate $1.2 million in gaming revenue a year, that would generate about $232 million of revenue per year to the Commonwealth. So if it does a little bit better than MGM, it would generate $232 million to the Commonwealth. That's $2.3 billion per decade for school construction, the way the bill is written right now. To the locality, it would generate $90 million a year of casino revenue to the county. That's $900 million a decade. And that's if it does $1.2 billion under its basic math. Just go look up the tax structure, it's in the code. If it does $800 million, which is less than MGM, it would generate about $1.4 billion per decade to the Commonwealth and about $600 million over a decade to the county. And remember, in terms of the county, that doesn't even include real estate taxes. And if it's a $3 billion project with a $1.14 real estate tax, think about the tax revenue that generates as well. Madam President, I also want to point out that Virginia's school construction is behind. They say we have a $3 billion school construction backlog, maintenance backlog in this Commonwealth. This project alone could plug 2/3 of that hole on a statewide basis. So think about that for a second, this one vote. I also just want to say that this project would generate a lot of jobs. They say it would generate 5,000 construction jobs, and it would also generate 3,000 permanent jobs on the project. What kind of jobs? When I went to NCSL, I don't know how many of y'all went up to Boston this year for the National Consumer the NCSL meeting, National Conference of State Legislatures. But there's a casino up there, a Wynn casino up there on the Boston Harbor. And I walked over there and took a tour. And on the tour, they told me that if you want to be on the housekeeping staff there, their salaries start at $60,000 a year. The front desk clerks, they all make six figures working at the front desk of a hotel. I just want you to think about that. You cannot get jobs like that in Northern Virginia without a college degree anywhere else. And, Madam President, this bill would create jobs for folks in Northern Virginia that don't have college degrees so they can afford to live in Fairfax County, which many people cannot afford to do right now. So, Madam President, I think this bill would create a lot of opportunity for people in Northern Virginia. It would also, I think, create a lot of benefits for our schools, which need those investments across the Commonwealth. I think it builds on the work of our Senate Finance Chairman over the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years now to create more opportunities to generate revenue for our localities in Northern Virginia, and I would hope we could pass the bill.
The chair recognizes the senator from Lynchburg.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to see if the gentleman from Eastern Fairfax will rise for a question.
Senator, will you yield?
I'll yield.
Thank
Senator
you,
from Lynchburg.
Thank you, Madam President. Senator, and I remember when this bill was coming through last year, there were a lot of projections about how much money would go into school capital funding, and you hit on that. You said $90 million. Then I heard the senator talk about how it was going to do jobs, how much the jobs would pay in Fairfax. But for a low country boy in Lynchburg, Virginia, what is the benefit of this casino to the folks in my region?
Senator from Eastern Fairfax.
Madam President, the way we've set up casino gaming in the Commonwealth from the beginning was that the revenue goes towards school construction. Or a portion of the revenue goes towards school construction. And again, if you put in, if you want to come over and play with my spreadsheet, I have it over here. But if you put in $1.2 billion of gaming revenue, it would generate $232 million per year of revenue that goes into the school construction fund. So right now that construction fund gets somewhat less than that from the other 5 casinos around the state, and then school systems are allowed to access that school construction money if they meet certain criteria. And actually, Fairfax County hasn't been able to access any of that revenue. It's been mainly the rest of the state that's been using those school construction funds.
Madam President.
Senator.
Any further questions?
I'll yield.
Will the senator yield?
He said, do we have any percentage, or is the rest of the state, is it broken out to regions or anything? Every region, every school will have to apply for that general amount. Is that correct?
I think that's the way.
Senator from Eastern Fairfax.
Thank you, Madam President. Sorry, I jumped the gun. Yeah, I think I'm actually not fully aware of exactly what the process is, but I know that, for example, I don't think any of the Northern Virginia jurisdictions have been able to access the money because of the way they fund schools. I think it's been mainly funding schools in other parts of the Commonwealth. And right now, our existing system is generating at least $100 million a year for that fund. Probably more than that, probably about $150 million a year. And all I know is it goes to school construction.
I first would like to ask the senator from Eastern Fairfax if he would yield for a question or two.
Will the senator yield?
Sure.
The senator from Arlington.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to know if you have contemplated, or if it's specific in this bill, a different revenue share for the locality than we have normally given to the other 5 jurisdictions that are hosting a casino.
Senator from Eastern Fairfax.
What I would say to the senator is that I have repeatedly asked the County Board of Supervisors if they would like to have a different revenue share to propose one, and they've refused to propose one. And I also think that giving one county a different revenue share than other counties would be kind of a weird way to do things in Virginia. But there are some other ways to possibly structure the revenue given the size of this project compared to the others. But I'm happy to have that conversation as soon as the Board of Supervisors chooses to engage in it. Speaking of the bill, if nobody else has any comments briefly.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Ladies and gentlemen, Senate, first of all, I want to point out that Fairfax County is a big place. It's larger than 8 states, 1.1 million people, and the majority of the senators who represent the county support the legislation. The Board of Supervisors, they took a vote. It was a 5-4 vote when they had a vacancy on the board. That vacancy's since been filled. And I would also just say, with regard to the revenue split, one of their biggest complaints about the bill is the revenue split. And I've said to them, okay, if you got a problem with the revenue split, then give me a proposal. They won't give a proposal. So I would game to say that if they want to make a proposal, I'm happy to consider it. With regard to the polling, you can make a poll say almost anything you want. And if all you say is, you want a casino, sure, they're going to answer it one way. But if you say to people in Fairfax County, would you prefer a casino or a 10% tax increase? What do you think they're going to say? Okay? And this project would generate the equivalent of about 10 cents on the dollar in real estate taxes in Fairfax County. But you know what? When you don't ask the questions a certain way, people answer them a certain way. So I just want everybody to remember that when they hear about all this polling. And I also want everybody to remember there's been all these mailers that have been appearing in Fairfax County mailboxes now for the last 2 years from this mysterious organization based out of a P.O. box in Richmond with some name. Well, who do you think's been paying for that? There's this thing across the river that's been sucking $300 million a year out of our state that stands to lose $3 billion a decade if we actually get this done. And how much money do you think they're willing to spend to get Fairfax County voters to say things on polls that prejudice them or whatever? Folks, MGM has their fingers in this. And by the way, if you get a bunch of emails again this year like you did last year, I would encourage you to write back to your constituent and ask them if they actually wrote the emails, because there were people that got emails last year that wrote back to their constituents who said, I didn't send that email. So please, if you get those emails, please respond and ask them where they actually sent them. And the last thing I'll just say is I live across the river. I live closer to the MGM casino than most of the people in Fairfax that are complaining about this live. You know what? Nothing has changed in the quality of life in the area that I live. We've seen zero effect from it. There's a lot of folks that are stirred up about it, but I would just ask them to be rational about it. At the end of the day, if this passes, voters will decide this, not us. I would hope we could pass this.
The question is, shall Senate Bill 756 pass? All in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 23, noes 14.
Ayes 23, noes 14. Senate Bill 756 passes.